I want to take a look at a clip in a second here from Chris Hayes on MSNBC, who honestly just does a really good job of having these discussions. Whereas in a lot of times mainstream media, they leave out some conversations I wish would be had, but he does a really good job of having them, I think. And what he was responding to was this moment that went viral of the Oklahoma gubernatorial debate where the Republican incumbent governor goes, "Nah, that's a lie," whenever the Democratic challenger brings up the point that, hey, the homicide rate in Oklahoma is actually, or the violent crime rate, I should say, is actually higher than that of California and New York State. And he goes, "Surely that's not true. Come on, please. Mwah, ha, 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 ha." It is true. And it's a point that Chris Hayes will get into after we watch this context video in more depth. But we've discussed this. As much as the Republican Party, especially going into these midterms, wants to pretend it's the Democratic Party that creates all the higher crime rates that we're seeing, but then you actually look at the facts, and in areas that are more governed by Republicans, they actually have worse violent crime. So with that being said, here's the clip that Chris Hayes will be responding to.
So let's talk about the facts. The fact is the rates of violent crime are higher in Oklahoma under your watch than in New York and California. That's a fact.
Well, we'll have that fact checked by the Frontier Superintendent.
It's also a fact that medical marijuana...
Oklahomans, do you believe we have higher crime than New York or California? That's what she just said.
Safety and security is my top priority.
So, it's interesting how he doesn't appeal to the audience. Like, come on, you know what you've heard on Fox News. There's no chance that California and New York, these dirty, Democratic, heavily citied states, could possibly have better violent crime rates than us. But it's true, as Chris highlights here.
2020, for instance, Oklahoma had 9 homicides for every 100,000 people. Again, we're talking deep red Oklahoma, where the 2 largest cities are run by Republican mayors. So you can't even blame it on the cities and their libs, those liberals who wanted to fund the police. No, the Republican mayor of Tulsa and Oklahoma City, I don't think that's them. Now compare that to California with about 6 homicides for every 100,000, or New York with about 5. In fact, just look at the top 10 states with the highest murder rate: Mississippi, Louisiana, Kentucky, Alabama, Missouri, South Carolina, New Mexico, Georgia, Arkansas, and Tennessee. Almost all Republican-run states that vote for Republican presidential candidates every election. Here's another stat for you. The murder rates were 40% higher in states that voted for Donald Trump than states that voted for Joe Biden. So yes, crime is up. But the central lie Fox is peddling and the Republican Party is that it's just the libs in the big cities, and those other people, the ones on the security footage we keep showing you, they're responsible. But it's not just happening there, despite what Republicans across the country and that network would like you to believe. Listen to this. Homicide rates increased 25% in rural areas in 2020. Do you think that was because they, quote unquote, defunded the police, or because the liberal prosecutors got in power in rural America? Do you think that's what happened? That is almost as much as a spike in urban areas, which was 30%. So if Republicans really care about this, if they want to make sure that people feel secure in their homes and the streets, they should be talking about the uptick in crime all over.
Yes. So that's the conclusion. The conclusion is not, ha 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 ha, ha, Republicans suck. No. The conclusion is, yes, crime's a problem. Yes, we need to address it. No, it is not because defund the police. Now, I've talked about I don't support defund the police, but it also hasn't been done on a broad enough level for that to be affecting nationwide spikes in crime that we've seen. And for a long time, Republicans have liked to say that because we're the ones who say the phrase law and order the most times, that means we actually have policies that some sort of outcome comes from that lowers crime rates. It's not true. And if you look both as he did at the presidential level, who they voted for, but then in a more material sense, actually who's the government governing on a state level, those states or municipalities, you see the exact same thing in all of the different statistics you could look at, where it is not a Democratic city problem. It is not a Democratic state problem when we see these rises in crime rates. And oftentimes the rises are worse in areas led by Republicans. So again, that's not to say now this problem isn't a problem. No, it's still a problem. And even in blue areas, there are increases. And we just need to address it with that in mind, that clearly the lies we've been told aren't ones we should follow, because if we do, we're going to be getting the wrong analysis of the problem. So how could we possibly get the correct solution to it? And we have seen the discussion around crime playing a huge role in why people want to vote for the Republican Party in this upcoming midterms, which is deeply sad, because if they were aware of these facts, maybe they would feel differently. If they were aware of the fact that not only is the Republican Party breaking down our democracy, as we'll get to in a very scary way later in today's show, and has no proposal for how they're going to economically benefit your life, except for we're going to cut taxes for people who make billions of dollars. So if you're a billionaire, vote Republican. And all of these things, and wanting to take away your right to make a decision about your body if you're a woman. Also, they don't actually have a solution to problems they scream about, like crime, like inflation, and on and on we go. So I hope more people, obviously we're in the midterms already, but I wish more people, I should probably say, were aware of some of these facts so that they could vote accordingly, and so that we could have a better chance of living in a better country going forward.